Hare Krishna, welcome to this episode of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Today we will be studying a few wonderful pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and try to explain the significance of those pastimes. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वतीदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे। चैतन्य चरितामृत आदिलीला 17.66 आचार्य गोसाई रे प्रभु करे गुरु भक्ति ताहाते आचार्य बड़ा होय दुखमति। Lord Chaitanya respected Advaita Acharya as his spiritual master, but Advaita Acharya Prabhu was greatly aggrieved by such behavior. भंगी कोरि ज्ञान मार्ग कोरिलो व्याख्यान क्रोधावेशे प्रभु तारे कोइलो अवज्ञान. Thus he whimsically began to explain the path of philosophical speculation, and the Lord in his anger seemingly disrespected him. तबे आचार्य गोसाईर आनंद होइला लज्जित होइया प्रभु प्रसाद करिला. At that time, Advaita Acharya was greatly pleased. The Lord understood this and he was somewhat ashamed, but he offered Advaita Acharya his benediction. Purport. Advaita Acharya was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri, Ishwar Puri's spiritual master. Therefore, Ishwar Puri, the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was Advaita Acharya's god brother. In view of this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu treated Advaita Acharya as his spiritual master. But Sri Advaita Acharya did not like this behavior of Lord Chaitanya, for he wanted to be treated as his eternal servant. Advaita Prabhu's aspiration was to be a servant of the Lord, not his spiritual master. He therefore devised a plan to antagonize the Lord. He began to explain the path of philosophical speculation in the midst of some unfortunate Mayavadis. And when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard about this, he immediately went there and in a very angry mood began to beat Advaita Acharya. At that time, Advaita Acharya, greatly pleased, began to dance, saying, "Just see how my desire has now been fulfilled. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to treat me honorably for so long, but now he is treating me neglectfully. This is my reward. His affection for me is so great that he wanted to save me from the hands of the Mayavadis." Hearing this statement, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was somewhat ashamed, but he was very pleased with Advaita Acharya. So this is a perfect example of how chastisement is meant for correction and how a disciple should take chastisement. One must know. Of course, there are pastimes where Chota Haridas, where he completely banished, even that is chastisement, to show how strict one should be in principles, especially for a sannyasi. Um, but of course, after he died, Chota Haridas, as a Gandharva, he used to invisibly come and sing songs to Lord Chaitanya. So that was also there. But This is the thing. Advaita Acharya, he wanted to elicit the superiority, the superior behavior of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Superior behavior mean in the sense Lord Chaitanya being the superior of Advaita Acharya. Because by etiquette, by social situation, Advaita Acharya was the god brother of Ishwar Puri, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spiritual master. So it was actually supposed to be that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should have given the respect to Advaita Acharya as much as you would give to Ishwar Puri. He was doing that, and Advaita Acharya did not like it. He wanted to be treated um, as an inferior. So from this we can also understand how we should behave and conduct ourselves in the association of devotees. We have to, of course, here in this case, Advaita Acharya antagonized the Lord, um, but that is his special pastime. But we cannot imitate Advaita Acharya and associate with Mayavadis, and we will fall down. So, but what we can learn, Anukaran we cannot do. What is the Anusharan lesson in this pastime? Anusharan means to follow the instructions that are being disseminated. Because sometimes the great personalities, like the Lord Himself or His great devotees, Advaita Acharya is the Lord Himself actually, or even sometimes His great devotees, they can do things that is ordinarily not possible for the common man, and those actions should not be imitated. But one should follow the principle. An example is Hanuman. He went to Lanka and found Sita, and forcibly he burned Lanka so much, and he fought and killed so many of those Rakshasas. And eventually he was highly instrumental in bringing Mother Sita back to Lord Ramachandra. Prabhupada said, Mother Sita is Lakshmi, and one who wants to enjoy money, which is nothing but a representation of Lakshmi ji, without God conscious, without Krishna consciousness, that is Ravan mentality. So today, everybody who is materialistic and who is after money, he is a mini Ravana. Okay, so but we are not as strong as Hanuman, where we can go there and burn their offices and come back with money. We can't do that. Huh? So we can't imitate the action of Hanuman, but Prabhupada said we will keep the principle and adopt a different policy. Policy being begging. So we'll beg, we'll go and beg from the materialists and ask them to contribute something for Krishna consciousness movement. So in that way, our essential principle is the same, which is to bring Lakshmi back to Krishna or Sita back to Ram. So that is not changed, but according to our strength, according to our position, our advancement, and the social situation, we have adopted the different means, but the principle hasn't changed. So similarly, Advaita Acharya has done something which we cannot imitate, like associating with the Mayavadis and antagonizing the Lord. That's a thing we cannot imitate. But the principle here is that we should desire to be treated as a menial servant of the devotees. So that should be our desire. We should desire that let me be chastised. I should be open to that. That means that is only possible. See, devotees are merciful. They want to keep they want to keep devotees or neophytes in the Krishna consciousness movement. So those who are qualified enough, they will receive chastisement, and such disciples take the chastisement in the right mood and advance. Now that such chastisement may be meted out to many devotees, neophyte devotees, and some may not be able to take it, and they may leave. That is unfortunate. Um, what makes us leave? It's the ego. So sometimes devotees, being compassionate, in order to keep the devotees in the movement, they may not chastise them and treat them cordially. But we should understand that such treatment is actually not good for the practitioner. Not that he should always be chastised, but such cordial dealings are a sign of distance. You see, a person whom we meet once, or we don't know much, we will be usually cordial with them. But a person who's more closer, then there will be more honest dealings. So if there is something wrong, immediately there is correction, or such things. And otherwise also it is, encouragement is also given. Those who maintain a distance from the devotees, they may not receive much encouragement because there's no opportunity to encourage them, because they keep a distance from the devotees. And when they come near, there's not enough chance to correct them, because we don't see the full range of their lifestyle. And to keep them not running antagonistic to the movement, they may be treated cordially. But with such dealings, there may not be much advancement in the candidate. So we should covet such close relationships with devotees. What is that? Tadati pratigrahanaati guhyamakhyaati prichhati bhunkte bhojayate chaiva shadvidham preeti lakshanam. So preeti lakshanam must be cultivated with devotees. Offering gifts in charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasad and offering prasad are the 6 symptoms of love shared by one devotee and another. Okay. And also the next verse, which is कृष्णे धियस्य गिरितं मनसाद्रियेत दीक्षास्ति चेत् प्रणतिभिश्च भजन्तमीशम् शुश्रूषया भजनविज्ञमनन्यमन्यन्निन्दादिशून्यहृदमीप्सितसङ्गलब्ध्या. One should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation, Diksha, and is engaged in worshipping the deity. And one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. Now, we may ask, oh, you're saying that we have to be very close with devotees. But what if some devotees are not of, desirable standards? Yes. So we have to offer mentally respects to all devotees who chant the holy name. We have to bow down physically to those who have taken Diksha. And the close association is to be done with people, with devotees who can help us advance. And who can help us advance? The people who are more experienced and more engaged in service, and the responsible devotees, the senior devotees, they are the ones who can help us advance. And even if it is uncomfortable to receive all the instructions from them, that is what we need in order to cut off our materialistic tendencies. And Raghunath Das Goswami has composed this verse for in praise of, in glorification of Sanatana Goswami. वैराग्ययुग्भक्तिरसं प्रयत्नैर् अपाययन्माम् अनभीप्सुमन्धं कृपाम्बुधिर्यः परदुःखदुःखी सनातनस्तं प्रभुमाश्रयामि. I was unwilling to drink the nectar of devotional service, possessed of renunciation. But Sanatana Goswami, out of his causeless mercy, made me drink it, even though I was otherwise unable to do so. Therefore, he is an ocean of mercy. He is very compassionate to fallen souls like me, and thus it is my duty to offer my respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet. So, he was unwilling. So, of course, Raghunath Das Goswami is a pure devotee. But we may be unwilling. So, he's actually showing us that this is the mercy of a pure devotee. That even if you are unwilling to drink the devotional service possessed of renunciation, Vairagya Yug Bhakti. Yug Bhakti. Vairagya Yug means um, bhakti in conjunction with renunciation, because many people also commit to the path of Bhakti Yoga, but they don't renounce. So when we don't renounce, that is a stagnation. Nehayat karma dharmaya na viragaya kalpate na tirthapadha sevaya jivan api mrito hi saha. 323:56. So what is that? If we stagnate at any point, that is a detriment. It is detrimental. You see, anyone whose work is not meant to elevate him to religious life, anyone whose religious ritualistic performances do not raise him to renunciation. See, this is the point. And anyone situated in renunciation that does not lead him to devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead must be considered dead although he is breathing. Of course, here religious ritualistic performances may mean karmakanda, but let us take it is also equally applicable to for Krishna consciousness. If we ritualistically follow the program laid out by Srila Prabhupada, only as a ritual, oh, Mangalarti, there is this song, that song, and then the chanting and the eating prasadam and Bhagavatam class, ritualistically sitting there, but not actually actively participating. There is active participation and passively being present. So I can sit in the Bhagavatam class and just be passive and even sleep, physically present, mentally absent. And even if I am listening, passively listening, like, of course, any Shravanam is good, but it is much better if we actively engage in the class. That means we actively take notes. We have to have a notebook, a physical notebook, I would say, because these phones are very distracting. So, physical notebook and a pen, and jot down the points and take good notes and go back and revise them. Look at those notes and read those purports where which verses were quoted, and then the purports, and anything insightful that the speaker has spoken, you can make a note of that. So you're actively engaging and taking notes, and so that when you go back and refer and contemplate on these things, and those things will remain, and in that way we advance, actively engaging. And this not only across the board, not only for hearing or listening, but even while, of course, reading, there can be many levels of reading. um, just reading, which is recommended for the first reading, one is just recommended to read and gain a good understanding of a general understanding of the philosophy. um, and then eventually, when we revisit those books, we can now do active reading, having a notebook, and um, taking notes and observing patterns, observing series of verses, like on this topic. Like even in one chapter there are many series, like this few verses are talking about this topic, this few verses are about this topic. So there is a lot of breakdown even within chapters, and sometimes some themes spread across many chapters together, or sometimes something starts somewhere and it has continuation over many vast chapters, and then you know sometimes the conclusion is somewhere else totally. So we have to, this will come later on, when we revisit those books and try to do a deeper study. So we should be immersed in this. And this is about listening and reading. And even other services, we should be actively engaging. And that active engagement in services is predicated upon how active we are in listening and reading. Listening to the classes and reading the books of Srila Prabhupada. Because what does it mean to actively engage in service? Suppose I'm doing deity dressing, I'm doing arati, I'm doing cooking for the Lord, I'm doing book distribution. Now I can go about these duties without much thought about the Lord. Of course, book distribution I have to. speak to people about Krishna. So there is inherently a requisition of thinking about Krishna. But when I'm cooking, if I'm habituated to cooking, and if I'm okay, I mean, if I'm okay standard, I can cook without while thinking of something else. I may think of something else even while dressing the deity. I may think of something else. So that is not attentive service. So how to do attentive service when I'm doing arati, when I'm doing service, any service, sweeping the floor, organizing something, that depends on my mind being engaged there to every single detail of that service. So that is one thing. At the same time, when there are times when, for example, I'm sweeping the floor, yes, there is the active involvement of looking at every single corner and collecting the dust from there, and lifting the things, or maybe something is there, lifting that and sweeping under that, and then putting this back. So that is attention to detail while cleaning. But also, my mind can be thinking of the mandir marjan seva, the pastime of cleaning the temple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the philosophical import of that leela, which is explained in the Madhya Leela 12th chapter. So we can read, we can think of those things while listening. Or if I don't know much detail about these pastimes or anything, I can just chant a series of slokas, maybe Kunti Stuti, or maybe Mukundamala Stotra, or Bhagavad Gita shlokas, or Nectar of Instruction shlokas, Ishopanishad shlokas, Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita I already mentioned. So Bhagavatam shlokas, anything. I can recite them, Brahma Samhita. So I can recite these and perform. And as I'm reciting, it is always imperative to know the meaning of the shlokas. Because if you're just going to recite, that is again another passive involvement. It's not an active involvement. Many people do that. Oh, Vishnu Sahasrama. They know it by heart, but they don't know the meaning of each of those verses. So that is not a very good standard at all. And it doesn't help us much. When it's performed in knowledge, then it reaps the best benefit. You see, I think that is explained in this verse in the Bhagavad Gita, okay, 433. श्रेयान् द्रव्यमयाद् यज्ञात् ज्ञानयज्ञः परन्तपः सर्वं कर्माखिलं पार्थ ज्ञाने परिसमाप्यते. Chastisers of the enemy. The sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. Sacrifice performed in knowledge is better. After all, son of Partha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. So all our activities to Krishna should be, in conjunction with knowledge. And knowledge should be in conjunction with devotional service. And knowledge, this is not just, speculative knowledge. This is revealed knowledge. So Shravanam, when you do Shravanam, you will get knowledge. That is not same as the jnana of the impersonalist or the speculator. This is realized knowledge, and that is part of bhakti. And that will fuel all our activities with conviction, and will bring us to the proper mood. Another thing I can do while doing services is sing Vaishnava songs. I've forgotten about that. Vaishnava bhajan. I should learn Vaishnava bhajans with meaning, always with meaning. When I say learn, means with meaning, word to word meaning. Uh, Even daily songs, many devotees do not know the word to word meaning. If we only know the word to word meaning, it will root us. It will root us to the proper um, mindset with which we should approach devotional service. So that is very important. So that is active involvement in devotional service. So we should actively associate with devotees, not just be in proximity of devotees and offend them, and or not take any advantage of their association. We should always take advantage of the association and serve the devotees. Then it will be proper. Our interaction with devotees is proper. So that is very important. And part of that active involvement is sometimes to receive chastisement. It's not that always they give chastisement. They always encourage also. That's what the real intention is. But Too much encouragement sometimes brings up the ego. So it's not good for the neophyte. And therefore, it is good for him to take the. That's why Acharan Dasavan Nicha, why this is stated. How a devotee, this is not only for brahmachari, although it is for brahmachari, it is for every devotee. Not that, women can be full of ego. No. Oh, only brahmachari should be humble, Prabhu. I am a woman, I will be full of ego. You cannot chastise me. You see, Sri Narada Uvacha, Brahmachari Gurukule Vasandanto Gurorhitam Acharan Dasavan Nicho Gurau Sudridha Sauhridaha. What is that? Narad Muni said, a student should practice completely controlling his senses. He should be submissive and should have an attitude of firm friendship for the spiritual master. With a great vow, the brahmachari should live at the Gurukul only for the benefit of the Guru. Now, for the women, they don't live at the Gurukul, but they should have the same attitude because that is what will, of course, eventually they have to get married and they have to stay with the husband. And even then, the same principle should be followed. So, this should be for across the board for everyone. Anybody who is interested, brahmachari. What is the meaning of brahmachari? Of course, there's one the technical aspect of brahmachari is brahmacharya, who is the celibate student. That is one thing. But at the core, the foundational what is that? Um, uh, Epistemology? Not epistemology. What is that? Is it epistemology? Whatever. The root meaning of the word brahmachari is brahmacharati iti brahmachari. Those who tread the path of Brahma or the spiritual path of Krishna consciousness, that person is a brahmachari. So even for us, I mean, karma sannyasi, sannyas is what? Of course, there is the ashram, right? Where one is actually a sannyas initiated into that order. But the principle of sannyas is this, and that can be followed by anyone, and it should be followed by everyone who is interested in their own benefit. I mean, interested in their own well-being. श्री भगवान उवाच अनाश्रितः कर्मफलं कार्यं कर्म करोति यः स सन्न्यासी च योगी च न निरग्निर्न चाक्रियः. One who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. So this is the principle of sannyas, whereas there is the external order of sannyas, which the sannyasi is supposed to follow these principles. Okay? But it is not limited to the sannyasi, these principles. These principles are applicable across the board for everyone in the Varnashram system. And even the principle of brahmacharya is applicable to everyone, because everyone, brahmacharati, we have to tread the path of Brahma or spiritual path, which is Krishna consciousness. And as long as we have come to that, reading the books of Prabhupada, getting initiated by him, associating with devotees, that is already brahmachariti. And whoever is in brahmachariti, he is a brahmachari by principle. And acharan dasavan nicho gurau sudridha sauhridaha. I should cultivate friendship, firm friendship for the spiritual master and those devotees who serve in a dedicated fashion under the order of the spiritual master as well. Not just a spiritual, oh, yes, I am having firm conviction and firm friendship with Srila Prabhupada, but these devotees are all bogus. That means I am bogus. Those who are serving Prabhupada, they are not bogus. If I am thinking they're bogus, I am bogus. Especially those who are not dedicated to the and living in the temple, they have a very high chance of thinking like this sometimes. So we have to be very careful. Etymology, yes, not epistemology. Yes, that's the word. I forgot. So epistemology is different. Etymology, the etymology of the word. Okay, so going back to the pastime. So that's Advaita Acharya's pastime, and he's teaching us. मुरारे गुप्त मुखे सुने राम गुण ग्राम ललाटे लिखिल तार रामदास नाम. Murari Gupta was a great devotee of Lord Ramachandra. When Lord Chaitanya heard Lord Ramachandra's glories from his mouth, he immediately wrote on his forehead Ramdas, the eternal servant of Lord Ramachandra. So, I think Murari Gupta, if I'm not wrong, is the incarnation of Hanuman. श्रीधरेर लौह पात्रे कोइलो जलपान समस्त भक्तेरे दिलो इष्ट वरदान. Once Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the house of Sridhar after Kirtan and drank water from his damaged iron pot. Then he bestowed his benediction upon all the devotees according to their desires. So, these few verses are Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dealing with different devotees differently. I mean, not differently, but acknowledging their devotion, their particular unique relationship with the Lord. So, purport. After the mass Nagar Sankirtan in protest against the magistrate Chand Kazi, the Kazi was converted to a devotee. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned with his Sankirtan party to the house of Sridhar, and Chand Kazi followed him. All the devotees rested there for some time and drank water from Sridhar's damaged iron pot. The Lord accepted the water because the pot belonged to a devotee. Chand Kazi then returned home. The place where they rested is still situated on the northeastern side of Mayapur and is known as Kirtan Vishram Sthan, the resting place of the Kirtan party. So, here the specific mention of damaged iron pot is mentioned. So, again, one should offer the best things one has for the Lord. But if one has no uh, means to do it, whatever he has to be is to be employed in service of the Lord, and the Lord will accept that if it is offered in devotion. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. So here, damaged iron pot. Iron, first of all, it's not a very high grade metal compared to gold or silver or even copper or brass. Iron is lower than that. And damaged, moreover. Still he accepted because it belonged to a devotee. Kirtan Vishram Sthan. Now, next. हरिदास ठाकुरे रे करिल प्रसाद आचार्य स्थाने मातार खंडाइल अपराध. After this incident, the Lord blessed Haridas Thakur and vanquished the offense of his mother at the home of Advaita Acharya. Purport. On the Mahaprakash day, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mahaprakash day means I think he showed his Vishwarup to Advaita Acharya, if I'm not wrong, probably, and some others, if I'm not wrong. On the Mahaprakash day, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Haridas Thakur and informed him that he was none other than an incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj. Now, here some people say that Haridas Thakur is an incarnation of Brahma, and yes, so Haridas Thakur is an incarnation of Brahma and Prahlad Maharaj. So here, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself said that. So both. So how can two people be in one? Yeah, that is possible. I mean, the Lord's inconceivable energies. See, whatever we know of Him is just a little bit. There is unlimited depth to His pastimes and what all He does and how it is. So we should never doubt these statements. Hey, He said Brahma and now Prahlad Maharaj. What is this? Which one? No, we can only accommodate one. But the Lord can do many things. So how this happens is the Lord's mystery, which we may not fully understand unless He reveals, if He so desires. Okay, so when Vishwarup took sannyas, Vishwarup is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's elder brother. When Vishwarup took sannyas, Sachimata thought that Advaita Acharya had persuaded him to do so. See, mother. Of course, this is transcendental relationships, but it is akin to what happens in the material world. So Vishwarup took sannyas, and mother usually she won't like her son taking sannyas because he's not going to have a so-called happy married life like that. So she thought, oh, Advaita Acharya must have persuaded him to take sannyas, and that's why now my son is no more with me. And this comes from a very possessive mentality where the parents think that the children are theirs. For all societal purposes, yes, okay, in ordinary social dealings. But spiritually speaking, nobody is anybody's relative in this material world. Everybody belongs to Krishna. And therefore, the duty, in fact, of the parents, Guru na sasyat, Swajano na sasyat, Pita na sasyat, Janani na sasyat, Daivam na tatsyan, Napatischa sasyan, Namo chayedyaha samupetam mrityum. 5.5.18 of Bhagavatam. What is that? One should not accept the responsible positions of father, mother, guru, demigod, relative. All these are, king. So these positions should not be accepted if one cannot ensure that the dependent is liberated. So that is extremely important. So therefore, one must take the responsibility of delivering the dependents from the cycle of birth and death. It means moksha. They have to be liberated. That's the duty of the caregiver or the guardian. Otherwise, we should not accept the position of guardian. But the problem is, people accept these positions out of attachment. Oh, this is my family. So, and then they are mine. What right do you have to take my son? That's how they think. So, but actually, by doing that, the devotees always get this uh, complaint, accusation. By a devotee, when he preaches to somebody and that person becomes a devotee, dedicated, that devotee who brought him to the dedicated path of life, to Krishna consciousness, he benefited not only that devotee but also his family. So actually, he is blessing the entire family by taking one of their sons to Krishna because that's what they were supposed to do, but they did not do. This devotee has preached to him and made him a dedicated devotee. So he has made them fortunate. What they failed to do, he has helped them to do. But unfortunately, as the material world goes, they're not, you know, um, grateful for that. In fact, on the contrary, they become antagonistic to such devotees and even, take up legal cases against such devotees or organizations. We have a classic example of even Prajapati Daksha, who did that with Narada Muni. So this has been going on since time immemorial. I mean, even when, what to speak, even the four Kumaras, when they wanted to become brahmacharis and not want to marry, even Brahma got angry. Brahma, the first living creature and the acharya of our sampradaya. But of course, he knew that they were of a higher purpose, and then he did not disturb them because he also had his own service to do, which is to populate the universe. And they did not cooperate with that. But because they were on a higher platform, he controlled his anger, but that anger came out as Rudra, which is Lord Shiva. So anyway, of course, there is a much higher pastime, but at the same time, there is a lesson for us in the material world as well. So very few people actually understand the perspective, the correct perspective. There is a beautiful. I came across this. It's a Karmi description who was describing the difference between perception and perspective. Perception is how I perceive the situation. Perspective is external perspective, not from my viewpoint, from a different vantage point. And the vantage point that is always perfect because different people view at the same thing differently, with different opinions, with different prejudices, with different backgrounds. They analyze the same situation differently, right? So perspective is when a correct perspective is when I see a situation from the lens of Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. This is our framework to get perspective of a situation spiritually. So we should always, when we rely on our perception, the parents' perception is they perceive that this is my son, this is mine. But when they get perspective from the Shastra, Guru, oh, this is actually Krishna's. So you don't own that soul at all. It's not yours. It's Krishna's, part and parcel. Mamayavam Sujiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Everyone is Krishna's part and parcel. So that is perspective. So when we get perspective of the situation, then our emotional response, which triggers immediately when we rely on only perception and react to such perception, that can be balanced with perspective. And when we get perspective, then we see things in the proper order. So therefore, being very sharp in knowledge and understanding is very important. We should be ready and alert at all times, because Maya can hit us at any point. When we're off guard, then we give in to perception and react emotionally to anything. So we should get perspective. So that is very important, right? So anyway, Sachimata thought, oh, this is my son, and he must have. So she created somebody as an enemy who's actually the best friend. And so this is how people actually create enemies, when they have their sense gratification at the center of their considerations. Anybody who favors the sense gratification is a friend. Anyone who does not disturb or does not especially favor is a neutral party. Anyone who is who put obstacles to their sense gratification, they consider them an enemy and they get angry with them. So this has to change. So we have to get perspective. And with Guru Sadhu Shastra, we should be very sharp with this, alert. And for that, regular reading, regular seva, regular association and listening is important. And also, even if I do all these things, if I commit offenses, then again, that will be covered. That perspective will be covered. I will not want to consult these perfect sources to get perspective of the situation. And I'll rely and fall back on the perception. And in that way, make mistakes. So, therefore, she accused Advaita Acharya of this, that he conspired to make him a sannyasi. So, so that was an offense. Therefore, she accused Advaita Acharya of this, which was an offense at his lotus feet. Later, Lord Chaitanya induced his mother to take the dust of Advaita Acharya's lotus feet. And thus her Vaishnava aparadh was nullified. So, we have, recently also experienced something similar. When a devotee joined, others who were also devotees, who have not joined, they did not get a proper perspective of the situation. They relied on their perception and had opinions and issued comments that were offensive. Offensive to devotees, to the surrendered devotees who induced the surrender in that new devotee who just surrendered, committed an offense to the person who has surrendered, committed an offense to Srila Prabhupada, whose whole mission is to make people surrender to Krishna, and who offended Krishna himself, committed offense to the entire parampara, whose only objective is to take as many souls as possible back to Godhead. And finally, they committed an offense to Krishna himself, whose paramount instruction is Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Braja, which is to abandon all sorts of religious conventions and surrender to him utterly. So it is an offense at many levels. So we should be. So when we don't have a proper perspective, we should guhyam akhyata prichhati, one of the priti lakshanam aspects, one of the aspects of um, building our relationships with devotees is to question pariprashnena. Pariprashnena. That means in a mood of curiosity, not in a mood of how can you do this? How can you make that person, you know, do such and such thing that that person has to come out of his family and he has to join up. So if you know the story of every single person who has joined this movement, it is all ugly. Okay, it wasn't. It was the same even in Daksha Prajapati's case. His own sons, father did not like it. It was very ugly, the situation. He was offending Narada Muni so much. You see, so it is always going to be ugly. So we should know what is actually right and what is not, even if it looks ugly, because people are comfortable in their illusion. So when their illusion is shaken up, yeah, some undesirable emotions are elicited from that such people, but we can't wait to appease them and keep everything in the path of illusion. No, whoever can be saved must be saved, even at the cost of a little bit anger. I mean, that's why a devotee has to be tolerant and merciful at the same time. He should be merciful by making as many people as possible surrender to Krishna. At the same time, he should tolerate those people who do not understand this mission at all and who accuse the devotees of criminal acts just for doing this. The only recourse to such a behavior is to bow down to the devotees, and not just bow down, bow down from heart. When you do dandavat pranam, it's a lot of, see, what is dandavat pranam? Okay? When you bow down, okay, दोर्भ्यां पदाभ्यां जानुभ्याम उरसा शिरसा दृशा मनसा वचसा चेति प्रणामोष्टांग ईरितः. I'm reading from the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam 11.6.7. This is from I don't know where it's from, but Dandavat Pranam is this. Manasa, you see, the obeisances offered with 8 limbs, Ashtanga, Sashtanga Pranam, or Dandavat Pranam, is the obeisances offered with 8 limbs are made with 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 knees, the chest, the head, the eyes, the mind, and the power of speech. So, not all of them are physical parts of the body. The mind, the eyes means you have to see also, and the power of speech, especially these two, the mind and power of speech are, I have to offer glorification when I'm, bowing down. And of course, we say, Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. They are kalpataru, Vancha kalpataru. They are desire tree. Anything we can get from them, all perfection we can get from them. So when we are bowing down and saying this mantra, we are acknowledging this. And Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha. They are ocean of mercy. So now I may say this mantra, but internally I'm not accepting that yet. As a matter of etiquette, I may have bowed down. But in my mind, if I do not bow down, that is not a full pranam actually, right? So therefore, I should do the external pranam, but also in order for my mind to be clear and you know um, do it wholeheartedly, I should also inquire and clarify so that my mind becomes now clear. When Arjuna's mind wasn't clear in the Bhagavad Gita in the beginning, what did he do? Sishyasteham sadhimam tvam prapannam. I now um, um, surrender unto you. You please instruct me. So he asked so many questions in the course of the entire Bhagavad Gita discourse. And he got them clarified. And finally he said, Nashta moha smritir labdha tatprasadan mayachyutam. Nashta moha. His illusion was gone. So that clarity is what we need to get in every situation, in every nuance of the situation, of any situation. We have to get clarity. Then we will proceed further with, with the right mood, in good faith. Otherwise, we will just do it in bad faith. We're just coming there, but we don't have the best of interests there. Um, so that is important. Okay, so going back, next verse. भक्त गणे प्रभु नाम महिमा कहिल सुनिया पड़ुया ताहा अर्थवाद कइल. Once, when the Lord explained the glories of the holy name to the devotees, some ordinary students who heard him fashioned their own interpretation. नामे स्तुतिवाद सुनि प्रभुर होइल दुख सबारे निषेधिल इहार ना देखिल मुख. When a student interpreted the glories of the holy name as a prayer of exaggeration, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, greatly unhappy, immediately warned everyone not to see the student's face henceforward. Now, now again, fifth offense, to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination or exaggeration. Oh, this holy name is, they say, so powerful, but it's not actually, that powerful. So this is a problem. Because we may not experience the full power of the holy name because we're not fully invested in the holy name. Krishna has already said, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamyaham. Mam prapadyante, mam means me, Krishna is saying. So Krishna's holy name is also Krishna. How much have I surrendered to the holy name? That much I will get the reward. And reward means not material reward. The reward is love of Godhead, the understanding, the enlightenment, the buddhi, what is that? Dadami buddhi yogam tam, Krishna has said. Who bhajatam pritipurvakam. Those who tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti. So, for those who are engaged in pritipurvakam, ones who chants the holy name with, veneration and faith, Krishna will give him more and more intelligence. So, that is surrender to the holy name, attentively, nicely chanting. But here, some students, they say, oh, this is all exaggeration. So that's an offense. So purport. So somebody happened to do that during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time. So now, purport. Once when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained the glories of the transcendental potency of the Lord's holy name, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one unfortunate student said that such glorification of the holy name was an exaggeration in the Shastras to induce people to take to it. In this way, the student interpreted the glories of the holy name. This is called Arthavada, and it is one of the 10 offenses at the lotus feet of the holy name of the Lord. So he did two offenses, fifth and sixth, Arthavada, and also what is that? Considering the glories as exaggeration, and also giving a mundane interpretation. Or they are just there to give impetus for people to chant. Otherwise, it's not that powerful actually. So that's what they're saying. And there are many people who actually think like this. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching how to deal with such people. This is called Arthavad, and it is one of the 10 offenses at the lotus feet of the holy name of the Lord. There are many kinds of offenses, but the offense known as Namaparad, an offense at the lotus feet of the holy name, is extremely dangerous. The Lord therefore warned everyone not to see the face of the offender. Here you see that it is peculiar that this phrase is used. Lotus feet of the holy name. How can the name have lotus feet? Well, because it is Abhinnatvan Namanamino. That's why the holy name is considered, sometimes referred to as Harinam Prabhu. Harinam Prabhu means the Lord in the form of his holy name. So, if the holy name has form, and the name and form are non-different. So, the lotus feet of the holy name ordinarily wouldn't make sense in this material world, but in the case of the Lord, such apparent contradiction has its complete harmonious possibility. The Lord therefore warned everyone not to see the face of the offender. The Lord immediately took a bath in the Ganga with all his clothes on to teach everyone to avoid such a namaparad. The holy name is identical with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no difference between the person God and his holy name. This is the absolute position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, one who distinguishes between the Lord and his name is called a Pashandi or non believer, an atheistic demon. Glorification of the holy name is glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Huh? One should never attempt to distinguish between the Lord and his name or interpret the glories of the holy name as mere exaggerations. One should not do that. सगणे सचेले गिया कोयलो गंगा स्नान भक्तिर महिमा ताहा कोरेलो व्याख्यान Sagane Sachele with the devotees along with his clothes on without leaving the clothes. Yeah, going Ganga Snan. So, without even removing his garments, Lord Chaitanya took a bath in the Ganga with his companions. There he explained the glories of devotional service. So, he not only did the Snan, but also explained the glories of devotional service so that the effect is not purified merely by taking Ganga Snan because my mind, is still not purified. So I must bathe my mind in the Ganga of the topics of Krishna. Hmm. Just like Gita Mahatmya, what is it said? Gita Gangodakam Pitva Punarjanmana Vidyate. What is that? Bharatamrita Sarvasvam Vishnuvaktrat Vinisritam. Gita Gangodakam Pitva Punarjanmana Vidyate. Right? So, that we should do. The topic of Krishna, which is Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, anything, authorized topic of Krishna, is, a flow of Ganga river of Krishna's topics. And actually, there is a beautiful verse, right? Ādi Lila. कृष्णोत्कीर्तनगाननर्तनकला पाथो जनिभ्राजिता सद्भक्तावलिहंसचक्रमधुपा श्रेणीविहारास्पदम् कर्णानन्दिकलध्वनिर्वहतु मे जिह्वामरुप्राङ्गणे श्रीचैतन्यदयानिधे तव लसल्लीलासुधास्वर्धुनी लीला तव लसल्लीलासुधास्वर्धुनी. Okay. O my merciful Lord Chaitanya, may the nectarian Ganga waters of your transcendental activities flow on the surface of my desert-like tongue. Beautifying these waters are the lotus flowers of singing, dancing, and loud chanting of Krishna's holy name, which are the pleasure abodes of unalloyed devotees. These devotees are compared to swans, ducks, and bees. The rivers flowing produces a melodious sound that gladdens their ears. So this is the pictorial representation of the Sankirtan movement. So this is compared to a beautiful river, and is compared to the Ganga. And 5:19:24, right? न यत्र वैकुण्ठकथा कथासुधापगा न साधवो भागवतास्तदाश्रयाः न यत्र यज्ञेशमखामहोत्सवाः सुरेशलोकोऽपि न वैससेव्यताम्. An intelligent person does not take interest in a place, even in the topmost planetary system, if the pure Ganga of topics concerning the Supreme Lord's activities does not flow there. If there are not devotees engaged in service on the banks of such a river of piety, or if there are no festivals of Sankirtan Yajna to satisfy the Lord. So again, the comparison of Krishna's Sankirtan movement to a river um, is made here. And for 2025. स उत्तमश्लोकमहन्मुखच्युतो भवत्पदाम्भोजसुधाकणानिलः स्मृतिं पुनर्विस्मृततत्त्ववर्त्मनां कुयोगिनां नो वितरत्यलम्बरैः. Okay, this is similar, but okay. My dear Lord, you are glorified by the selected verses uttered by great personalities. Such glorification of your lotus feet is just like saffron particles. When the transcendental vibration from the mouths of great devotees carries the aroma of the saffron dust of your lotus feet, the forgetful living entity gradually remembers his eternal relationship with you. Devotees thus gradually come to the right conclusion about the value of life. My dear Lord, I therefore do not need any other benediction but the opportunity to hear from the mouth of your pure devotee. So it's compared to a river of nectar flowing from the mouth of a pure devotee, which is like the saffron dust particles of the on the lotus feet of the Lord. So in others, it's a very interesting comparison that is made. The dust on the lotus feet of the Lord and the sound vibration of the devotees explaining the glories of the Lord are non-different. So the sound vibration, the message is compared to the saffron dust particles on the lotus feet of the Lord. That means there's absolutely no difference between the instructions of the devotees, and of course the devotees' instructions means the Lord's instructions. They repeat or they glorify Him and explain Him. So they're always inspired by the Lord when they speak. So therefore, their topics is equal to the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. So dust of the lotus feet of the devotee and the Lord is not just the physical dust. In fact, more importantly, it is the instruction. So we should know about this absolute nature of the the descriptions of the Lord and His devotees. Like there is no difference between the dust of the Lord and the words of the devotees. In fact, the words of the devotees are actually spreading the dust of the Lord and bathing us with that dust. So just by sitting in a class, reading Prabhupada's books, these will actually, we are smearing our body with the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. Not that only when I, touch, the lotus feet of Prabhupada Murti, and that's when only I'm getting the dust of the Lord, or in the Charanamrita, which when I drink, that is yes, dust of the Lord. This is also dust of the Lord. In fact, this is even more potent dust, it is said. यत्पादसंश्रयाः सूत मुनयः प्रशमायनाः सद्यः पुनन्त्युपस्पृष्टाः स्वर्धुन्यापोऽनुसेवया. O Suta, those great sages who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord can at once sanctify those who come in touch with them, whereas the waters of the Ganga can sanctify only after prolonged use. So this is the thing. वासुदेव कथा प्रश्नः पुरुषां स्त्रीन् पुनातिः वक्तारं प्रच्छकं श्रोत्रीं तत्पादसलिलं यथा. Ganga, emanating from the toe of the Lord Vishnu, purifies the three worlds, the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems. Similarly, when one asks questions about the pastimes and characteristics of Lord Vasudeva Krishna, three varieties of men are purified: the speaker or preacher, he who inquires, and the people in general who listen. So it's actually the bathing in the Ganga, Ganga Snan. If we listen to the topics of Krishna, it is Ganga Snan, it is smearing our body with the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord, all these things at once. See? In fact, there are many, many verses like this. So he explained the glories of devotional service. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explaining ज्ञान कर्म योग धर्मे न है कृष्ण वश हेतु एक प्रेम भक्ति रस. Theme. By following the paths of speculative philosophical knowledge, fruitive activity, or mystic yoga to control the senses, one cannot satisfy Krishna, the Supreme Lord. Unalloyed devotional service for Krishna is the only cause for the Lord's satisfaction. So, karma, jnana, yoga cannot satisfy Krishna, only bhakti. Next verse actually is a quotation from Bhagavatam to that effect, corroborating the same point. न साधयति मां योगो न सांख्यं धर्म उद्धव न स्वाध्यायस्तपस्त्यागो यथा bhaktirmamorjita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, said, "My dear Uddhava, neither through Ashtanga Yoga, the mystic yoga system to control the senses, nor through impersonal monism or an analytical study of the absolute truth, nor through the study of the Vedas, nor through austerities, charity, or acceptance of sannyas, can one satisfy me as much as by developing unalloyed devotional service unto me." Now, when it is said like this, it is not that study of the Vedas is not good, austerities is not good, charity, sannyas, all these are not good, um, analytical study is not good. No, that's not what we're saying. These should be done in conjunction with devotional service. See? They should be done in conjunction with devotional service. We have all these, external rituals as well. We are not against rituals. Ritualistic performance means just performing the ritual for the sake of performing it, but not with actual active participation in that ritual as a service to Krishna. Um, it is not that we give up on rituals. We have a ritual. What is the morning program? That is a ritual. What is the book distribution? What is all these services? These are all rituals we have to perform. Our sadhana, we have eating only Krishna prasadam. This is all ritual. But Ekadashi fasting, festival fasting, these are all rituals. These are done with meaning. We should do. No rituals are condemned. But those, of course, there are many rituals which are karma kanda rituals, jnana and yoga. Those are not, we are not going to adhere to them because that is not our end goal. Our end goal is the highest, which is bhakti, Krishna bhakti. So for that, we have to undergo those principles of sadhana that is given to us by our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. So, in accordance with, of course, the Vedic literature. So, these we have to perform for the purpose of satisfying Krishna. Yat karoshi, yad ashnasi, yad juhoshi, yad dadasi, yad tapasyasya kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. That is the thing. Don't just do tapasya and do that as a madarpanam. Krishna, arpanam to Krishna. Krishna arpanamastu. That is what we have to do. Then it is bona fide. Otherwise, like Gandhi fasted for the country, that is bogus, stupid nonsense. That is condemned. Performing tapasya for Krishna's satisfaction is what is to be done. So, purport: karmis, jnanis, yogis, tapasvis, and students of Vedic literature who do not have Krishna consciousness simply beat around the bush and do not get any final profit because they have no clear knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nor do they have faith in approaching Him by discharging devotional service, although everywhere such service is repeatedly emphasized as it is in this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 11:14-20. Actually, this verse is from 11:14-20 Bhagavatam. The Bhagavad Gita 18:55 also declares Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyaschasmi tattvataha. One can understand the Supreme Personality as He is only by devotional service. If one wants to understand the Supreme Personality factually, he must take to the path of devotional service and not waste time in profitless philosophical speculation, fruitive activity, mystic yogic practice, or severe austerity and penance. Elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita 12.5, the Lord confirms Kleshodhikataras tesham avyaktasakta chetasam. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. People who are attached to the impersonal feature of the Lord are obliged to take great trouble, yet nevertheless they cannot understand the absolute truth. As explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 1:11, Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Shabdyate. Unless one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original source of both Brahman and Paramatma, one is still in darkness about the absolute truth. So this is the thing. So a nice verse is are shared in the comment section. So 6539. This is about devotees being accused for making somebody's child surrender to Krishna. भगवता नित्यं ननु भागवता नित्यं भूतानुग्रहकातराः ऋते त्वां सौहृदघ्नं वैरन्करम् अवैरिणाम्. All the devotees of the Lord, but you are very kind to the conditioned souls and are eager to benefit others. Although you wear the dress of a devotee, you create enmity with people who are not your enemies. Or you break friendship and create enmity between friends. Are you not ashamed of posing as a devotee while performing these abominable actions? You know, Narad Muni is always portrayed in the movies of as a person who create enmity between friends. And he did so seemingly in the case of Daksha and his sons. Um, and so it is not that. Narad Muni is not a comedian sidekick of a character in the pastimes of Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna. He is the central figure. He's such a grave person. He's not a person who wants simply some fights. Although, yes, that is part of his um, schemes, in the sense his intention is not to make a fight. His intention is to bring out the right thing. But people who are materially attached, they will, you know, react in this way. So devotee never wants to create enmity among friends. In fact, Ajata Shatru. Um, so they don't actually create enmities, but people think like that. The purport, such as the criticisms that must be borne by the servants of Narad Muni in the disciplic succession. Through the Krishna consciousness movement, we are trying to train young people to become devotees and return home back to Godhead by following rigid regulatory principles, but our service is appreciated neither in India nor abroad in the Western countries, where we are endeavoring to spread this Krishna consciousness movement. In India, the caste Brahmanas have become enemies of the Krishna consciousness movement because we elevate foreigners who are supposed to be Mlechas and Yavanas to the position of Brahmanas. We train them in austerities and penances and recognize them as Brahmanas by awarding them sacred threads. Thus, the caste Brahmanas of India are very displeased by our activities in the Western world. In the West, also, the parents of the young people who join this movement have also become enemies. We have no business creating enemies, but the process is such that non devotees will always be inimical toward us. Nevertheless, as stated in the Shastras, a devotee should be both tolerant and merciful. Devotees engaged in preaching should be prepared to be accused. Devotees engaged in preaching should be prepared to be accused by ignorant persons. Let me repeat that. Devotees engaged in preaching should be prepared to be accused by ignorant persons, and yet they must be very merciful to the fallen conditioned souls. This time I got it right. If one can execute his duty in the disciplic succession of Narad Muni, his service will surely be recognized. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 18.68 and 69, Ya idam paramam guhyam madbhakteshvabhidhasyate bhaktim mayi param kritva mame vaishyatya samshayaha nacha tasman manusyeshu kaschinmaya priyakrittamaha bhavita nacha me tasmad anyah priyataro bhuvi. For one who explains the supreme secret to the devotee's devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. Let us continue preaching the message of Lord Krishna and not be afraid of enemies. Our only duty is to satisfy the Lord by this preaching, which will be accepted as service by Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna. We must sincerely serve the Lord and not be deterred by so-called enemies. In this word, the word sauhridagnam, a breaker of friendship, is used. Because Narad Muni and the members of this disciplic succession disrupt friendships and family life, they are sometimes accused of being sauhridagnam, creators of enmity between relatives. Actually, such devotees are friends of every living entity. Suhridam sarvabhutanam. What a contradiction, right? They are actually Suhridam sarvabhutanam. Suhridam sarvadehinam. Suhridam sarvabhutanam is Krishna, 529. But Suhridam sarvadehinam is in the Bhagavatam, 325:21. Sadhu Bhushana. The ornaments of a sadhu is that he is a most well-wishing friend of everyone. But here he is referred to as Sauhridagnam. So actually, such devotees are friends of every living entity. Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam or Dehinam. But they are misunderstood to be enemies. Preaching can be a difficult, thankless task. But a preacher must follow the orders of the Supreme Lord and be unafraid of materialistic persons. So, in this situation, right, we should note two things. Again, perception and perspective. The perception of the parents and even such caste brahmanas who um, pass comments, their perception is one thing. The Lord's perspective and our perspective, informed by the Lord's perspective or the Lord's instruction, should be our guiding force. Now, oftentimes, right, we if we are not alert enough, we will take the perspective. Now, our perception, for example, if we are in the temple and we are making devotees, and from our viewpoint, we have to make them as a devotee. If possible, make him surrender to Krishna full time. Okay. Now the devotee also wants to surrender, but the parents or the family members are not for it. Now, from their perspective, again, for us, what they think is perspective from their angle. Perspective is something which is from a different vantage point. That is perspective. From my vantage point, that is perception. So I should have perspective of what they are thinking. But if I buy into their emotions too much, and I may, you know, become subjugated by that. That's why I should always be informed by the perfect perspective, which is informed by Krishna's instructions. Uh, I should always be informed. My actions should be informed by Krishna's instructions, and I should conduct those actions with full conviction. And if possible, change the perspective of that family members of that person who's trying to surrender. If it's not going to change ever, or maybe at least for the time being, still, if possible, help that devotee surrender. Sometimes what happens is eventually the parents will accept later on. They won't give permission, but they will accept it later on. They won't give permission up front. So if you're going to wait for permissions, nobody is going to give you permission. Nobody. Prabhupada went to many people when he was in India before he went to America. He said, "You have 5 sons, give me one for preaching the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu." Swamiji, what is the nowadays, Pandit होके क्या बनेंगे, क्या करेंगे? पैसा नहीं मिलेगा. They say, oh, what will a Pandit, if he becomes a pujari, what will happen? He will not get any money, he will not have a future. Now is a different age, we are in modern age now, we have to do, studies and go abroad or whatever. So nobody was interested. You ask permission, nobody is interested. You think those who joined Krishna consciousness asked permission from their parents? Do you think so? Do you think there will be temples in this world, Hare Krishna temples, if everybody asked permission from their parents? No. They have to make the decision, and eventually they will accept. Sometimes they may not. What to do? People have to understand this. They have to understand this. So we can't keep appeasing the people. pandering to the public. We can't. Of course, we should do it in as much, um, without riling people up too much, and explaining it nicely, if as much as possible. It's not that we only want to create frictions in family. That's not our aim. That's not our aim. Our aim is to make everyone surrender to Krishna, which is the noblest of aims in this universe. Noblest of aims. Because there's nothing as noble as, helping others surrender to Krishna. There's nothing as noble. Not even close. The Nobel Peace Prize should only go to the devotees. Not Nobel Peace Prize, Nobel Peace Prize. So, but they're always given, um, accusations. They're always accused. They're never given any prize. The prize is Krishna says. What he says? He says, "There's nobody more dear to me than a preacher." That is the prize. So he gets his prize from Krishna, a preacher. Everybody else may accuse him, but he doesn't, worry too much about it. Okay, so another verse that was quoted is, regarding the comparison of topics of Krishna to be, Ganga. This is another nice verse. One second. So, स्वच्छः प्रकृतितः स्निग्धो माधुर्यस्तीर्थभूर्नृणां मुनिः पुनात्यपां मित्रम् ईक्षोपस्पर्शकीर्तनैः. O king, a saintly person is just like water because he is free from all contamination, gentle by nature, and by speaking creates a beautiful vibration like that of flowing water. Just by seeing, touching, or hearing such a saintly person, a living entity is purified, just as one is cleansed by contact with pure water. Thus, a saintly person, just like a holy place, purifies all those who contact him because he always chants the glories of the Lord. The words apam mitram, just like water, can also be read as aghan mitram, which means that a saintly person purifies all living entities by accepting them as mitram or his personal friends and saves them from their sinful reactions, aghat. So of course, one can go on reading this. Going back now. What is the time? 9:15. मुरारी के कोहे तुम्ही कृष्णवश कैला सुनिया मुरारी श्लोक कहिते लागिला. Lord Chaitanya then praised Murari Gupta, saying, "You have satisfied Lord Krishna." Hearing this, Murari Gupta quoted a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. What is this? 78. So Murari Gupta quoted this. Kvaham daridraha papiyan kva Krishnah Shri Niketanah Brahma Bandhuriti smaham bahubhyam parirambhitah. Since I am but a poor, sinful Brahma Bandhu, not Brahmanically qualified, although born in a Brahmana family, and you, Lord Krishna, are the shelter of the goddess of fortune, it is simply wonderful, my dear Lord Krishna, that you have embraced me with your arms. Purport. This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.81.16 spoken by Sudama Vipra in the presence of Lord Sri Krishna. This and the previous verse quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam clearly indicate that although Krishna is so great that it is not possible for anyone to satisfy him, he exhibits his greatness by being personally satisfied even with one who is unqualified from so many angles of vision. Sudama Vipra was born in a family of Brahmanas and he was a learned scholar and a class friend of Krishna's, yet he considered himself unfit to be strictly called a Brahmana. He called himself a Brahma Bandhu, meaning one born in a Brahmana family but not Brahmanically qualified. Because of his great respect for Brahmanas, however, Krishna embraced Sudama Vipra, although he was not a regular Brahmana but a Brahmabandhu or friend of a Brahmana family. Murarigupta could not be called even a Brahmabandhu because he was born of a Vaidya family and, according to the social structure, was therefore considered a Shudra. But Krishna bestowed special mercy upon Murarigupta because he was a beloved devotee of the Lord, as stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The purport of Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's elaborate discussion of this subject is that no qualification in this material world can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, yet everything becomes successful simply through development of devotional service to the Lord. The members of this International Society for Krishna Consciousness cannot even call themselves Brahma Bandhus. Therefore, our only means for satisfying Krishna is to pursue the injunctions of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who says, Jare dekha tare koha Krishna upadesh, amar ajnay guru haya tara edesh. Whomever you meet, instruct him on the teachings of Krishna. In this way, on my order, become a spiritual master and deliver the people of this country. Madhya Lila 7.128. Simply trying to follow the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we speak to the people of the world about Bhagavad Gita as it is. This will make us qualified to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. So this is an important point. The only um, hope we have of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepting us is that we follow his order of preaching. एक दिन प्रभु सब भक्तगण लैया संकीर्तन करि वैसे श्रम युक्त हैया. One day the Lord performed Sankirtan with all his devotees, and when they were greatly fatigued, they sat down. एक आम्र बीज प्रभु अंगने रोपिला तक्षणे जन्मिला वृक्ष बाढ़िते लगिला. Lord then sowed a mango seed in the yard, and immediately the seed fructified into a tree and began to grow. See. देखिते देखिते वृक्ष होइल फलित पाकिल अनेक फल सबे सबे विस्मित. As people looked on, the tree became fully grown with fruits that fully ripened. Thus everyone was struck with wonder. शतदुई फल प्रभु शीघ्र पाडायला प्रक्षालन करि कृष्णे भोग लगायला. The Lord immediately picked about 200 fruits, and after washing them, he offered them to Krishna to eat. रक्त पीत वर्ण नाही अष्ठिवल कला एक जनेर पेट भरे खाइले एक फला. Fruits were all red and yellow with no seed inside and no skin outside, and eating one fruit would immediately fill a man's belly. Purport: in India, mango is considered best when it is red and yellow, its seed is very small, its skin is very thin, and it is so palatable that if a person eats one fruit, he will be satisfied. The mango is considered the king of all fruits. देखिया संतुष्ट होइला सचेर नंदन सबा के खाओ याला आगे करिया भक्षण. Seeing the quality of the mangoes, the Lord was greatly satisfied, and thus, after eating first, he fed all the other devotees. अष्ठिवल कल नाही अमृत रसमय एक फल खाइले रसे उदर पूराय. अष्ठिवल्कल nahi. Fruits had no seeds or skins. They were full of nectar and juice and were so sweet that a man would be fully satisfied by eating only one. एई मत प्रतिदिन फले बार मास वैष्णव खाए न फल प्रभुर उल्लास. In this way, fruits grew on the tree every day throughout the 12 months of the year, and the Vaishnavas used to eat them to the Lord's great satisfaction. It was not a seasonal tree, seasonal fruit tree, it was every day. These are confidential pastimes of the son of Shachi. Other than devotees, no one knows of this incident. Well, now everybody knows. Purport: non-devotees cannot believe this incident, yet the place where the tree grew still exists in Mayapur is called Amraghatta or Amghata. Oh wow. I don't know where this is. I don't think I've seen this. एई मत बार मास कीर्तन अवसाने आम्र महोत्सव प्रभु करे दिने दिने. In this way, the Lord performed Sankirtan every day, and at the end of the Sankirtan, there was a mango eating festival every day for 12 months. Purport. On principle, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would distribute prasadam at the end of Kirtan performances. Similarly, the members of the Krishna consciousness movement must distribute some prasadam to the audience after performing Kirtan. Kirtan korite Prabhu ailo meghagan, apana ichhaye koilo megha nivaran. Once, while Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was performing Kirtan, clouds assembled in the sky, and the Lord, by his own will, immediately stopped them from pouring rain. Purport. In this connection, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that once, when Lord Chaitanya was performing Sankirtan, a short way from the village, some clouds appeared overhead. By the supreme will of the Lord, the clouds were asked to disperse, and they did. Because of this incident, that place is still known as Megherchar. Since the course of the Ganga has now changed, the village of the name Belpukhuria, which was formerly situated in a different place called Taranavas, has now become known as Megherchar. The Madhya Khanda of Srila Lochandas Thakur's Chaitanya Mangal also relates that once at the end of the day, when evening clouds assembled overhead and thundered threateningly, all the Vaishnavas were very much afraid. But the Lord took his kartals in his hands and personally began chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, looking up toward the sky as if to direct the demigods in the higher planets. Thus, all the assembled clouds dispersed, and as the sky became clear with the moon rising, the Lord began dancing very happily with his jubilant and satisfied devotees. एक दिन प्रभु श्रीनिवासेर आज्ञा दिल बृहत् सहस्र नाम पढ़ सुनिते मन होइल. One day the Lord ordered Srivas Thakur to read the Brihat Sahasranama, the thousand names of Lord Vishnu, for he wanted to hear them at that time. पढ़िते आइलास्तवे नरसिंह पढ़िते आइलास्तवे नरसिंहेर नाम सुनिया आविष्ट होइला प्रभु गौरधाम. As he read the thousand names of the Lord, in due course the holy name of Lord Narsimha appeared. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard the holy name of Lord Narsimha, he became fully absorbed in thought. Purport. The Chaitanya Mangal Madhya Khanda describes this incident as follows. Srivas Pandit was performing the Shraddha ceremony for his father, and as is customary, he was hearing the thousand names of Lord Vishnu. At that time, Gaurahari Lord Chaitanya appeared on the scene, and he also began to hear the thousand names of Vishnu with full satisfaction. When he thus heard the holy name of Lord Narsimha, Lord Chaitanya became absorbed in thought, and he became angry like Narsimha Prabhu in his angry mood. His eyes became red, his bodily hairs stood on end, and all the parts of his body trembled, and he made a thundering sound. All of a sudden, he took up a club, and people became greatly afraid, thinking, "We do not know what kind of offense we have now committed." But then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu adjusted his thoughts and sat down on his seat. नरसिंह आवेशे प्रभु हाथे गदा लैया पाषंडे मारिते जाय नगरे धाइया. In the mood of Lord Narsimhadev, Lord Chaitanya ran through the city streets, club in hand, ready to kill all the atheists. नरसिंह आवेश देखी महातेजोमय पथ छाड़े भागे लोक पाया बड़ भय. Seeing him appearing very fierce in the ecstasy of Lord Narsimha, people ran from the street and fled here and there, afraid of his anger. लोक भय देखी प्रभुर बाह्य होइला श्रीवास गृहे ते गिया गदा फैलाइला. Seeing the people so afraid, the Lord came to his external senses and thus returned to the house of Srivas Thakur and threw away the club. Srivase कहे न प्रभु करे आवेशाद लोक भय पाय मोर होय अपराध. The Lord became morose and said to Srivas Thakur, "When I adopted the mood of Lord Narsimhadev, people were greatly afraid. Therefore I stopped, since causing fear among people is an offense." Causing fear among people is an offense. See? श्रीवास बोले न जेतो मार नाम लॉय तार कोटि अपराध सब होय क्षय. Srivas Thakur replied, "Anyone who takes your holy name vanquishes 10 million of his offenses immediately. अपराध नाहि कोइलो ले केरो निस अपराध नाहि कोइलो लो केरो निस्तार Je to ma dekhilo, tar chutilo samsar. There was no offense in your appearing as Narsimadev. Rather, any man who saw you in that mood was immediately liberated from the bondage of material existence. Eto boli Srivas korilo, Eto boli Srivas korilo sevan, tushta hoya prabhu aila apana bhavan. After saying which, Srivas Thakur worshipped the Lord, who was then greatly satisfied and returned to his home, to his own home. आर दिन शिव भक्त शिव गुण गाय प्रभुर अंगने नाचे डमरू बाजाए. On another day, a great devotee of Lord Shiva, chanting of Lord Shiva's qualities, came to Lord Chaitanya's house, where he began dancing in the courtyard and playing his damaru, a musical instrument. Mahesh आवेश होइलो सचिर नंदन तारस कंधे चढ़े नृत्य कइलो बहुक्षण. When Lord Chaitanya, adopting the mood of Lord Shiva, got on the man's shoulders, and thus they danced together for a long time. Purport: Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu adopted the mood of Lord Shiva, for he is Shiva also. According to the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, Lord Shiva is not different from Lord Vishnu, but still Lord Shiva is not Lord Vishnu. Just as yogurt is nothing but milk and yet is not milk nevertheless. One cannot get the benefit of milk by drinking yogurt. Similarly, one cannot get salvation by worshipping Lord Shiva. If one wants salvation, one must worship Lord Vishnu. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 9.4. Matsthani sarvabhutani nachaham teshvavasthitah. Everything is resting on the Lord, for everything is his energy, yet he is not everywhere. Lord Chaitanya's adopting the mood of Lord Shiva is not extraordinary, but one should not therefore think that by worshipping Lord Shiva, one is worshipping Lord Chaitanya. That would be a mistake. And a very apt verse is quoted here. Matsthani sarvabhutani nachaham teshu avastitah. So Lord, that everything is within Lord Krishna, but Krishna is not within everything. He is within everything as Paramatma, but for example, he is in the heart of the tiger, but by worshipping tiger, I won't be worshipping Krishna. So similarly, like Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, among the animals I'm the lion, among the fish I'm the shark, and like that. That does not mean he's shark and tiger or lion. You know, uh, it is that this tiger, this lion, shark, they are powerful representations of his energy. So he has invested some of his energy in those. So similarly, he has invested a vast portion of his energy in Lord Shiva, and therefore Lord Chaitanya in the mood of Lord Shiva is not very extraordinary. But so, in other words, by worshipping Lord Chaitanya, Lord Shiva is satisfied. But by worshipping Lord Shiva, it is not the same as worshipping Lord Chaitanya. Worshipping Lord Shiva as a devotee, as an acharya of a sampradaya, that is different. But worshipping Lord Shiva eventually, very quickly, will turn into demigod worship. Which is why, although Bhaktivinoda Thakur also had Gopishwar Shiva deity in his home, but he worshipped Shiva as a guardian of the arena of Raslila. So that is very different. His focus was Radha Krishna, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he worshipped Shiva as a great devotee of Radha Krishna. That's a totally different mode from neophyte devotees like us, who and ISKCON is now very. It is becoming normalized, that worship of Lord Shiva. Oh, we should observe Shivaratri, and we should observe. We should how to say. Um, yeah, especially Shivaratri, and even otherwise, some devotees are going around chanting Har Har Mahadev and everything. Now, yes, he is a Mahadev. I mean, there's absolutely no taking away the respect due to Lord Shiva. But Lord Shiva himself, our thing is to please Lord Shiva as a devotee. So Lord Shiva will be most pleased if we worship Krishna. So by worshipping Krishna, we are pleasing Lord Shiva. That's the best way to please him. Not by glorifying him and then being involved in materialistic activities. That won't satisfy him. And that's not the proper way also. Krishna also says there is avidhi purvakam. So the best way to satisfy everyone is to satisfy Krishna. And demigod worship cannot take us to Krishna Bhakti. Hmm. Even if we take Lord Shiva as a Vaishnav, because we are so neophyte, we are so not advanced, very quickly, without much time, it will change into demigod worship, and people will start, okay, let's have a Shivaling in the temple now, and everybody will come for Shiva, and then we will have big, Shiva festivals and everything. Oh, we're worshipping as Vaishnav, but people are not coming for the Vaishnav worship. People are not coming for that. They're coming for their own demigod worship. So that's why how to do this is defined by the Acharya. Acharyopasanam is the first principle, is the defining factor on how our sadhana should be done. We just can't speculate. Oh, Brahma is also devotee. Vaishnavi Devi, Parvati is also devotee. Ganesh is also devotee. Indra is also devotee. Well, let us have all of them. So this is how Karmakanda enters into the our temples and everything. Our temples are meant for getting people's focus on Krishna, not otherwise. And Krishna's instruction is what devotees should also follow. Krishna said, "Don't worship the demigods." That is avidhi purvakam. They belong to me, yes. You're worshipping only me, but are doing so in a wrong way. To worship them, actually, is not worshipping Krishna, because he's the root of everything. Everything goes, all of them will be pleased. It is demigod worship is there instituted in the Vedas only for those people who want material benefits, who still are after material benefits, but at least they are given a chance to be in the Vedic purview by worshipping proxies of Krishna, who are the Devatas. But ultimately, they cannot give anything without sanction by Krishna. Nothing they can do. Not even a single blade of grass can move without the sanction of Krishna. Nobody, none of the Devatas can do anything. So that is clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita and Vedanta Sutra and everywhere. Everywhere. So now, with that understanding and Acharyopasanam, especially with our present times and circumstances and our present Deshakala Patra. Patra means ourself, how advanced we are. And even if we do as a Vaishnav, okay, Vaishnav will respect, Vaishnav. But people will immediately come for a different reason. Because once we have, oh, Shiva worship going on in the temple, oh, we are doing as a Vaishnav because we have Prahlad and Narasimha. Why not Shiva? We may come up with speculations like this. Now, if we start that, people will come to Shiva for a different reason. So our temple will become quickly a contaminated place where people will come with their only material desires, and there will be no chance of purification. So we should follow the sampradaya. We should not speculate. Okay, so everything is resting on the reading on the purport of Ādi 17.100. Everything is resting on the Lord, for everything is His energy, yet He is not everywhere. Lord Chaitanya is adopting the mode of Lord Shiva is not extraordinary, but one should not therefore think that by worshipping Lord Shiva, one is worshipping Lord Chaitanya. That would be a mistake. Okay, so we will probably stop here. And any relevant questions? Sunil Kumar is asking, Prabhu, your discussion is on Chaitanya Charitamrita or Srimad Bhagavatam? Chaitanya Charitamrita, but we do refer verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is relevant. So that's why you will see it on the screen. We're showing Bhagavatam verses sometimes. That is because it's relevant. We quote from many places, even Bhagavad Gita for that matter. Okay, so what else do we have in the comments? Okay, so I'll stop it here. जय श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु की जय। चैतन्य चरितामृत की जय। श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंद। हरि हरि बोल। हरे कृष्णा। Okay, so this is one nice verse in the comments. 4:14:25. Let's look at that one. को यज्ञ पुरुषो नाम यत्र वो भक्तिरीदृशी भर्तृस्नेह विदुराणाम यथा जारे कुयोषिताम. Very nice verse. You are so much devoted to the demigods, but who are they? Indeed, your affection for these demigods is exactly like the affection of an unchaste woman who neglects her married life and gives all attention to her paramour. And of course, we have this one. शब्द ब्रह्मणि दुष्पारे चरन्त उरुविस्तरे मन्त्रलिङ्गैर्व्यवच्छिन्नं भजन्तो न विदुः परम्. Despite the cultivation of Vedic knowledge, which is unlimited, and the worship of different demigods by the symptoms of Vedic mantras, demigod worship does not help one to understand the supreme, powerful personality of Godhead. Alright, so we'll end here. Hare Krishna.